Disclaimer: due to the existence of the FTC, I must inform you that this video is 13+. I adore animation, and it's my favorite form of telling a story. So when a pilot for a new cartoon called Hazbin Hotel came out, I was intrigued and wanted to watch it. So I did, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to make this video to hopefully convince you, the viewer, as to why you should watch the pilot. And to those of you who dislike the pilot, to see why I enjoyed it as much as I did. So without further ado, let's get into why Hazbin Hotel is incredible. So, before I talk about the actual episode, I want to address how the show is made, because it continues to fascinate me to this day. So Hazbin Hotel was created by Bibsy who wanted to create a pilot for a TV show and post it on the internet, with the hopes that a large TV network or streaming service will pick it up. And what makes this even more fascinating is that people who aren't professionals are working on the show, and somehow it still looks more professional than 90% of animation on American television. I just love this idea of taking talent from the internet and combining them all to make this huge video. You can tell that all the voice actors, composers, and animators really cared about making this product as good as it can possibly be. And as a result of having that freedom that shows on television and streaming services usually wouldn't have, it becomes even more obvious that blood, sweat, and tears were put into this project. But passion doesn't automatically make an episode great, so to find out if it's truly good or not, we must first start with the... So, to explain the story of Hazbin Hotel, instead of phrasing it in my own words, I decided I'd just steal what the fandom wiki has to say about the plot instead. It states that the series focuses on Charlie, the Princess of Hell, and her quest to open a hotel for rehabilitating demons. Hell suffers from overpopulation, and Heaven solves the problem by routinely exterminating demons yearly. Charlie, who has grown up in Hell, wants to find an alternate solution to the mass slaughter. She opens the Happy Hotel, which aims at teaching demons and sinners to become better people. There is a substantial resistance though, and Charlie and her friends must work together to keep the hotel running. Personally, I find the plot to be very creative, and I feel the potential of it is still super strong, since we haven't gotten much of it yet. The only big problem I have with the plot though is that after watching it 3 times, and 3 more after writing it, I still have absolutely no idea what happens after you die in hell. Angel Dust jokes that you can go to double hell. But since he immediately scoffs at the idea, I don't think it's plausible. My headcanon, however, is that dying in hell is very similar to the Pixar film Coco. Where if you die in the afterlife, you're dead forever. But that's honestly something more I feel like that's something to be explored in future episodes, instead of being something that never gets explained, because that would be stupid. So overall, I think the story's really good. It just needs some more fleshing out. So, how about we move on to the... Now, if the animation wasn't as fantastic as it is, then the characters and voice acting would probably be my favorite part of the pilot. Then again, they're my favorite parts of all my favorite shows, so I don't really know if that means much at all. So how about we do a quick rundown of all the characters, then explore my opinions on them, starting with our protagonist, Charlie, who I really like, and while she is one of my favorite characters, she's not my favorite. Her personality is basically if a Disney princess was in hell. A bright and bubbly person who loves to sing out all her feelings, but because she is born in hell, she is treated just like anyone else. Because in hell, no one gives a shit about royalty. And honestly, as someone who's kind of sick of Disney princess tropes, I think it was executed really well. And I like most Disney princess films. As for the voice acting, I think she gave it her all, and when I looked up, I found out that she has 2 voice actors, one for singing and another for talking. And the best part is that I couldn't even realize the difference between her talking and singing voices, something that other shows have a difficult time doing. Too bad they couldn't keep this consistency going with the other character that has a musical number. Okay, pause the video now before you dislike it, to read a note that I placed instead of me telling you what's on the note, because I forgot that was even an option. But now, you might be saying, wow, that explanation was shit. Which, well, yes, that does hurt. It is also the best way to transition to the wow that was shit guy who is on par of Tamatoa in majesticness. Okay, on to an important character. Out of the main cast, Vegi's easily the weakest. She has a solid role as Charlie's girlfriend, and as a straight man. But other than that, her personality traits are basically being angry and paranoid. And while she is pretty funny, she kind of reeks of missed potential, since there's a lot for his character, and I hope future episodes can turn Veggie into one of my favorites. And a good sign of her potential can be seen in her performance, which was pretty fantastic. But speaking of fantastic characters, I want to talk about Angel Dust, who is almost my favorite. But on an unrelated note, I've watched I Hate Everything's review of Suicide Squad probably 10 times, and in it he mentioned that Captain Boomerang was his favorite character because he's just kind of an asshole. And nothing else, and that's the reason I like Angel Dust as much as I do. But unlike Captain Boomerang, Angel Dust actually shows a sign of character development, because after he insults Charlie for the 60 millionth time, and he realizes how sad she is and considers comfort in her. Now obviously he doesn't, he's in hell for a reason, but it subtly shows that he has the capacity to be redeemed. I mean, he's still a dick. But speaking of dicks, Angel Dust is a porn star, and you know what that means? Yep, you guessed it, he's the sex joke dispenser. And while a lot of people have found that to be annoying, I honestly didn't. And if we're being honest, the most memorable and popular quotes come from Angel Dust. So it's either a vocal minority, or it's me having a sense of humor of a 10-year-old. Probably both. As for the performance, it's easily the best of the entire show. The voice given to Angel Dust perfectly encapsulates his personality. But now we must address the naked elephant in the room, which is that people find Angel Dust to be a bad form of LGBT representation, which if Angel Dust was the only LGBT character in the show, then I would see where they're coming from. But there's two other characters that are confirmed to be LGBT, those being Veggie, who like Angel Dust is gay, and Charlie, who is bi. And even if Angel Dust was the only gay character in the show, he'd still be an asshole. He's in hell for crying out loud. Okay, to escape the stupid subject started by a vocal minority, I'm going to talk about the best character. Alistair is easily my favorite character. And he seems to be the most popular character, so I know people are on my side for once. I just found him to be the most entertaining and fun character, whose best jokes come from his interactions with other characters. My favorite of which being, "You think I'm some sort of fucking clown?" Then he responds, "Maybe." Now that I'm thinking about it, I laughed more at Alistair than I did at Angel Dust, which is kind of surprising to me. But obviously we must address the radio host elephant in the room, which is that some people do not like Alistair's voice. Which makes sense, the old school radio voice may turn you off, but at least we can all acknowledge that there's a reason for it. Except for PK Russell. Like, really, you're saying that there's absolutely no reason for his voice being the way that it is, even though there's a minute-long expedition dump why? And if you even did the tiniest amount of research, you would have found out that he died in the 30s, which gives another explanation for why he sounds the way he does. Okay, before I lose my poo-poo, I'm gonna move on to the side characters. Katie Killjoy, the news reporter, is a pretty funny character. But if I were to have any small problems, it would be that her voice, she's a little too hateable. Well, even though I'm fine with this because writers could use that to their advantage, making the redemption arc one of a ton of comedic and story potential. Well, the voice acting-wise, she did a pretty good job of the annoying news reporter voice. Obviously working well for her character. As for her co-worker, Tom Trench, he's an okay character, okay performance, okay everything. And his only personality trait I can see is that he's a pervert, which works, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, though, if he didn't need much of a personality, as that would have distracted us from the main characters. Also, there's no subtlety in the way that he died with his name and design, and I love that. But now we must address the other character with hardly any personality, which is Cherry Bomb. Okay, moving on. Nifty is one of the cutest things on this planet, with great voice acting, and many people seem to have a relatively similar opinion to me when it comes to that. But sadly enough, Nifty wasn't really given much screen time, so that's the reason why I'm not as into the character as everyone else, though. But I really liked what we did get of her. From what I can see, she's really energetic and boy crazy. As she mentioned that there's no males in the hotel, even though Angel Dust is a guy, a really feminine guy, but still a guy. But easily the most obvious character trait is that she's a germaphobe, which is where the fan theories come in, which say that she died from an uncurable disease, which is supported by the fact that she died in the 50s, which is when disease was running rampant. But out of all the side characters, my favorite is Husk. I don't know, I guess I just like the tough guy drunk gambler who swears a lot archetype. But what I like most about this character is that, unlike with Nifty, you actually get to see a lot of his personality. But if I'm being honest, most of his dialogue is carried by the voice acting, which is my second favorite in the whole show. But in speaking of favorites, I absolutely love Serpentious. I mean, he doesn't have much of a personality, but his voice is so over-exaggerated and stupid that I can't help but love it. which is why, in terms of voice acting, he's easily one of my favorites. But what makes the voice so fitting is how he's not supposed to be taken seriously, and I think it becomes evident in the ending. But when it comes to the Egg Boys, I also really like them. Just like Serpentious, we're not supposed to be taken seriously, so I enjoyed them. Okay, here's the tier list. Pause the video now if you want, I guess. Well, that was a lot of characters. And words. Okay, starting with the character design, Charlie is one of my favorite cartoon character designs, and it is easily the best design in the show. As for Veggie's design, I think it's okay. I especially like how her face can lead to the funniest expressions in the show. But here's the real question. Why the fuck does she have this giant X on her eye that protrudes past her hair? Like, I actually hate that. Okay, out of all the designs, Angel Dust is my second favorite. I think it's the shape of the head. It just looks super appealing to me. I also like the legs, especially since he kinda acts like a spider. It's the type of design that works flawlessly on a silhouette. Alistair's design makes him look both intimidating and also like the type of guy to have tea with, which ironically works perfectly with his personality. Katie Killjoy looks a little too skinny for me, but other than that, she looks exactly how a real news reporter would look like in hell, which works. Tom Trent's design, which while not being subtle, like at all, is still one that's very appealing to me, if a little simple. Cherry Bomb's design is probably the only thing I like about the character. Like I said, Nifty's adorable. Enough said. I love Husk's overcomplicated design. It does look pretty dumb when he's standing, but thankfully he's pretty much only seen when he's sitting down. I especially like how the design, and after finding out that he doesn't like being a giant cat with wings, it works really well for his personality. Serpentious has a pretty good design. Nothing more, nothing less. And the design of the Egg Boys has grown on me. Okay, here's the tier list. As for the animation, it's flawless. Sometimes the editing is a bit off, like how in one scene Angel Dust is saving Cherry Bomb while at the same time an Egg Boy is shooting him with a gun. Like that didn't need to happen at the same time. But I consider that to be an editing flaw, rather than a flaw within the animation. But on the topic of editing, the sound effects are astonishingly overplayed, and it's comparable to Johnny Test. I'm not joking. The effects personally didn't bother me, but it's easy to see why it bothers so many other people. But in speaking of flaws, the only one I can think of for the near-perfect animation is that the animation is too good. Let me explain. Nevivzy Pop's animation style seems to be to have everything moving on the screen at the same time, and that's why the musical segments of the episode is the strongest animation-wise. But it doesn't work as well when you're having a normal scene. Like how in one scene you can see Alistair talking in the foreground, and then you see Charlie emoting like a character in the foreground and the background. And the worst part is that it's something that I didn't even realize. It was YouTuber Spockter who did. But you may be wondering why it was a bad thing. Well, it's because the animators spent so much more time than they had to animating things that most people wouldn't even notice, and that's the main reason why the pilot took 2 years to make, when it shouldn't have taken as long as it did. And I'm saying this because I love a pilot, and I want more episodes, but stuff like this is going to make it so episode 2 will never be made. Now that's obviously obvious hyperbole, but it will still take a while. As for the positives, it's basically everything else. The character design, the expressions, the poses, the comedic timing, and like I said, the everything. So how about we Oh, I thought this was gonna be the conclusion. Well, when I went to Letterboxd to look at the reviews, constant idiots around the globe started saying that there's too much swearing. Wait. Are you deaf? The swearing is in the show to set a tone. It takes place in hell, so if people didn't swear like sailors, then I wouldn't be able to take this world seriously. I think the people who reviewed this pilot were expecting Hazbin to be smart, but you can be immature and adult at the same time. A good example of this would be in one of my favorite comedies, South Park, which is an immature show that can deal with mature themes when it can. And now, I'm not saying that smart adult shows are bad. BoJack Horseman is one of my favorites. And I'm also not saying that all immature shows are good. I do not like Big Mouth, despite it having a very similar tone to South Park. So what I'm really saying is that Hazbin Hotel is just a pilot at the moment. So we didn't get much of how the show can tell mature storylines. My guess is that in the future the show will retain its immature tone, but also be able to challenge its viewers of topics like what can send you to hell. Hell of a Boss covered this briefly, but it was mostly played for laughs. so I think Hazbin can really deal with the emotional part of this concept. So what's the lesson of this story, small children who ignored the disclaimer at the start? Well, stop complaining about the swearing and complain about real problems the show has, like pacing and editing. Well, how about we actually make it to the... So, what would I rate the pilot? Well, I'm glad you asked, even though you probably didn't, because I'd give the story an 8, the characters and voice acting a 9, and the character design and animation a 10. So the overall score of Hazbin Hotel is a 9 out of 10. An absolutely astounding pilot. So, what did you think of the video? I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you had a lot of fun watching it. As always, I support constructive criticism, as I always want to make my content the best it can be. Just make sure not to insult me or type in KYS. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed your day. And now to tell you guys where my channel is headed in the future. Okay, I'm sorry about the 4-month hiatus for this channel, which is the longest I've ever had. I just lost motivation to make videos for a while because of a 40 subscriber milestone I hit, and to make things even worse, it was when big changes were happening in my life. But hopefully I can continue to make videos more consistently now that that's over. As for the actual content I'll be making, I want my channel to be focused on a channel that can analyze animated content, as that's what I'm most passionate about right now, that's what gets the most views, and that's the way I can keep my videos, and in translation my audience, more consistent. But in speaking of consistency, I'll be having none of that in the new change.org account I made. The account's full of joke petitions, and if you want to have a good laugh with your friends, then I suggest going to the description, where it can be found. Anyways, make sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on Letterboxd, and as always, I can't wait to see you again, peasants. Also, I found out that the narrator of Battle Block Theater voices Serpentius, so now we officially need to make a shrine of him.